You are listening to WOOP-LP, Cleveland, Tennessee. WOOP FM is a broadcasting service of the Traditional Music Resource Center, and we play America's original music.
Where'd the old town go? They moved it all north of here in a shopping mall.
Good morning and welcome to Old Town Cleveland here on WOOP FM 99.9, or you can go to the internet at www.woopfm.com. You can call us here at 614-5553. We also have an iPhone app. You can go to woopfm.com, download the app, and we will... What are you saying there, Deb?
Is your microphone on?
Yes, I'm talking. I can hear me.
Okay.
You can't hear me? Okay, well, maybe no one else can hear me.
Okay.
All right. Well, Deb, you talk a while. Let's see if we can hear you.
Okay, I was talking. Can you hear us? Yeah. Good morning, everyone. This morning is August the 24th, 2013, and we're glad to have you here with us. We have Bubba Cry live and in person this morning. Usually he calls us from the faraway land and wants to talk to us. Okay, they can hear us.
Okay, I thought so.
I just can't hear you in my headphones. Now I'm tickled. We have Bubba here, and we have Randy Fox sitting in the cheap seats over in the corner that won't get on the microphone, but maybe
He's here for moral support.
Probably to make faces at us while we talk. I don't know.
He's been throwing paper wads at Bubba all morning.
This is it. I have lost control, and it is 10:04.
They're trying to remember their old days at Bradley High School together.
That's right. That's right. Exactly. But Bubba's with us this morning, and we're glad to have him on here. And Bubba and Ron, we're going to talk a little bit about the communities of McDonald and Black Fox, and some of Bubba's memories of going to the pool hall when he was a young boy, I think. Just whatever you guys want to talk about this morning, we'll talk about that.
And there may be some of your former students call in.
That's right.
Most of them would be 50 or 55 now, wouldn't they?
They'd be, let's see, about 7 years younger than me. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, about mid-50s. Yeah.
Well, so
right.
So
It's amazing how they catch up with you, isn't
Oh.
it?
Isn't that scary though?
Hard to believe I was that age teaching school, and I had kids that. Well, let's see, I was 22, I guess, and 71. 22 when I started, and I had students of 14. So,
Yeah.
I mean,
Now
they
tell us where you taught at.
I taught at McDonald School, 71, 72, and then 72, 73. I was down there.
Who was the
too.
principal down there?
Well, the first year was Ed McGee, and then I'm wanting to say that before the year was out, Neil Henry took over and finished up. Then I believe Buddy Linville came the second year, if I remember correctly. We had K through 8 the first
Right.
year, and the second year they moved the 8th grade up to the junior what was old Bradley,
Right.
and made them. They were going up there because they were forming a junior high. So I had first year 6th, 7th, and 8th math, English, and science, and then second year I had I take that back. Had math and science. Then the second year I had math, English, and science 6th and 7th. So we had about a third of the students came from Bachman Home, and just a good time. I tell you, good time, good memories.
Did you end up being the coach too?
I was. Coach Walker hired me to
Working about 80 hours a week.
That's right. Basketball started the first week of school and it ended about February.
Mm-hmm.
But we'd practice. We were fortunate that Bachman Home let us use their gymnasium, and we would go up there. And then the second year, the 8th graders would get off the bus at Bachman Home. And then after practice, I had a route that I'd put about 15 in the car or a dozen, whatever, and we'd go Pine Hill. I'd come back and pick the others up and then take them Bancroft Road. So it worked out very well.
Now,
well.
what did you know about coaching?
Well, little to nothing, but which that was kind of the experience I guess I had. But had good kids that played ball together, so that mate a whole.
You
lot
just
of
stayed out of
difference.
their way. In other
That's
words,
right. I was just there.
He just drove them.
That's right. But they, Bachman Home had that gymnasium in there, so we'd put the girls on one end and the boys on the other. We didn't play a whole lot of full court, but anyway, back then all the schools had a team, so we played. Seemed like we played about 13, 14 games, something like that, and had a tournament at the end of the year. The kids, like I say, most of them were 7th and 8th graders. I had one 6th grader. But it was just a grand time. I won't ever forget, we opened up the uniforms for the team, and I don't remember what the material is called, that shiny, glossy material that they had. And I went down to Lookout Sporting Goods, and I said, you guys got to cut me a deal on some shorts and some orange jerseys. And I tell you what, they found a lot of pride having those beige colored shorts and orange jerseys.
So, in other words, they wouldn't wear the shiny things.
Oh, I didn't want them to
You
wear
wear
those.
the
I don't
shiny
think they fit. But they really, the girls' team, they were not as successful as the boys, because I didn't know a great deal about 3-on-3. I guess I should have learned something from Coach Smitty.
Right.
But anyway, it was a good time.
So, did you have kids that showed up there at 7th grade wanting to play basketball that had never played basketball? Or played out in the backyards, all the experiences they had?
See, Bachman Home, those kids had played together for whatever number of years they'd been together there. And fortunately, we had a nucleus from that. And then we had some kids from Pine Hill that played. I was real fortunate. I normally had a good 5, and then the others might, after maybe the 6th one, it might be that we had guys that had not played very much basketball, weren't a lot of skills. But anyway, we enjoyed some success. They made me look good as a coach, I'll tell you that. Yeah.
Who were some of the other powerhouse teams in the area at that time that you think, oh gosh, we have to go play?
Well, the one that beat us in the finals the first year was North Lee, and we beat Oak Grove in the semifinals, and they were the second best team, as I remember. Michigan Avenue. Sam Lefford had a good team over there. I think Kenny Phillips coached Hopewell. They were a good team too. So we were just fortunate, luck of the draw, things like that. And just had an outstanding games when we played in the tournament.
Did any of those kids from McDonald go on and you watched them play at Bradley?
I don't remember that anybody played. They might have played on the B team, whatever. I don't think they played on the varsity team. But they had the right. I mean, just playing together, it was amazing. I didn't teach them as very many plays or anything. We ran a basic 2-1-2 type thing. We didn't man-to-man because it took a little bit more work to do. We practiced Monday through Thursday. I told them I got Friday off, and so it was they grasped it. They passed very well. I mean, it was just amazing. And here we were, the smallest school in the county. We only had, I think, about 175 kids.
Very small.
Yeah.
The kids at Bachman, were those kids truly orphans or?
Well, there were some that had been there, like might be 5 and 6 children, and I think sometimes maybe the parents just could not afford to support them, and they'd live there, and I'd ask them, about going home, and they said, go home for the weekend, but I'm ready to leave once Sunday comes and come back.
Eventually stop being an orphanage and become a home for troubled children.
That was much later.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times the kids down there, maybe their family, somebody was in prison, or there just wasn't anybody in the family that could take care of them, is what I understand. They came from all parts of the world. I mean, all over the United States. Anyway.
I want to ask you a true history question here about Black Fox. I know we posted on the Facebook about Black Fox being a Cherokee Indian chieftain, and some people said they didn't realize that. Back us up to early 1800s?
Back you way up, way up. Well, there was a chief around here, and I called him Old Black Fox because the more I research, the more men I find named Black Fox. It was one of those names, like the white folks name people Benjamin Franklin, somebody. Well, everybody in the neighborhood really liked this guy, so they named their kids Black Fox, Black Fox, Black Fox. So sometimes it's kind of hard to separate them all. But the really old Black Fox, he's Al Moytoy and all of those. His brother-in-law was Dragon Canoe, which is a name a lot of people will recognize, and he was a chief. And he was chief from from like 1800 to he died in 1811. And at some point in time, he got booted out because I think he had traded 7,000 acres for a little supplement that he got $100 a year from the U.S. government, but he gave them 7,000 acres in return. And I think the Indians kind of got mad at him at that point and replaced him for a couple of years. But he was in charge of the area known as the Lower Cherokee Nation, which was North Alabama, North Georgia, and southeastern Tennessee. And I really think that the land that he occupied in this spot was like his summer home. And it was down in our community of Black Fox. In 1835, long after the old Black Fox had died, there was a man named Black Fox living on the property that is the Easterly property at this time. And there was also a gentleman down in the Flint Springs community named Black Fox. The one at Black Fox community appears to be an older one, and then the one down at Flint Springs was a younger man that had young children in his home. So we can kind of follow that all along. Eventually, there were a lot of chiefs in that family. Eventually, his sister, the old Black Fox's sister, married a Looney, and their son was chief of the Cherokee Nation at some point in time. And I'm not a Cherokee historian, so if I'm you kind of have to.
She's not a. Did you know all that?
No.
I can say that yes, Black Fox community was at some point in time occupied by the old Black Fox.
Real quick, for a chief in the Cherokee Nation doesn't mean royalty. There was no royalty.
There was no royalty. But now, in this case, this fellow was the principal chief of the Cherokee Nation. The old Black Fox was the head man in charge of this part of the nation. And Bubba and I was looking on University of Tennessee's digital library, and there are actually letters that were written. I don't think they were signed by Black Fox, but somebody else had apparently written it for him. Now, this is the old Black Fox, where he is trying to talk to John Sevier about the treatment of the Creek Indians. And he's thanking him for saying nice things. And I thought, well, he didn't do anything nice after that, but they did say nice things. So there was several letters on there from Black Fox, if people want to pull that up and look at it. He was a big deal. He died in Alabama. Supposedly I think you can go there and visit his grave. But he died in 1811.
And you said he was related to Dragon Canoe.
Dragon Canoe.
Now, there's another, Drumgoogle was another Indian.
Now, I'm not sure. Now, sometimes the Indians spell that Drumgoole. I was saying Drumgoogle because I saw it listed like that one time, and then the white folks called it Drumgold. Now, that man had some property down in the McDonald Black Fox area. You know, when you have people that obviously there were Cherokees who left here that had slaves. They had massive amounts of property when they left here. But this Drumgoole, let's call him Drumgoogle. There's a creek named after him, so we pretty much know where his plantation was. But he had a massive holding. He was really rich. And he was an Irishman, married to a Cherokee woman, as was many of the fellows down in that community. I like the fact that the old black chief, old Black Fox, his dad was out of the Moytoy family, and I think maybe Old Hop and all those are in there, and people that have studied Cherokees realize those names. But I always crack up that his mom's name was Melba.
But now,
but Melba, and then it's got a big long Indian name beside it that I can't say.
Also the term that they were true blood doesn't mean that they was 100% Cherokee. That just meant they lived the Cherokee life. Is that correct?
When the white folks were what I call adopted by the family, a lot of times these Irishmen and Scotsmen married into the Cherokees, and if they lived their life like the Cherokee lives, they were considered to be full bloods by the Cherokee. Now, the white folks kind of counted the quantum of blood that you had in you as a quarter or a fourth or an eighth or a 16th or a 32nd or whatever. White people put a lot of emphasis on that, but we have to remember the names that we recognize, like John Ross and Jesse Bushyhead,
Martin,
Judge John Martin. All of these guys were mixed bloods. I mean, they had a very small amount of Cherokee in them, but their heart was Cherokee, and they lived like the Cherokees believed in living. Something else the old Black Fox did, the Cherokees had a thing for their whole existence called blood law. And if the white folks came into this area and they happened to kill 3 guys, well, the Cherokees would go, okay. And the next 3 white people they saw, they killed them. Not that they had any association with the murder, but you just an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth kind of thing. And so that was called blood law. And the Cherokees understood it, and you did not retaliate then. The retaliation's been taken care of, and you just go on about your business. Well, white folks didn't quite understand that. They'd go out and kill a whole bunch of Cherokees. Well, the Cherokees go, okay, well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah. Next 8 people they saw, they killed them. And that was just the way that they did things. And they had peace towns where when things got out of hand, you'd had to go to the peace town, and they helped you settle your problems. And if you couldn't get along, well, you just had to go live somewhere else. And it was really an advanced society. Well, at some point in time, they realized when the white settlers came in that blood law wasn't working so well anymore because it just ended up getting a whole bunch of people murdered and stuff. And Black Fox was one of the people that negotiated with the Cherokees and helped them to understand that they didn't need to do the blood law anymore.
One thing I want to...
Now, Bubba, there's going to be a test at the end of the show.
I want to pass on to everybody that... I hate to say this, but it's going to break some people's heart. No, your grandmother was not a Cherokee princess. You've probably heard that thing, but there was no royalty in the Cherokee. A chief was an elected, almost like a mayor. A lot of chiefs were like a mayor.
The principal chief was like the president.
Yeah.
And then everybody else was like county commissioners. I mean, if out in your community, there's always a leader in every group of people. And if that was the person that kept the peace, that helped you decide that, you couldn't both own the same piece of property or helped arrange marriages even, that person was sort of the white people saw him as the chief, which really he was just the leader of the community. And so a lot of times if that person's daughter married into their family, they were sure that she was a princess, but that's not true.
Right. Okay.
That is not recognized by the Indians.
Bubba, tell us where you grew up at.
Well, I grew up on South Lee Highway, down Payne Gap Hill on the left-hand side before you get to Candies Creek down at the racetrack. Mm-hmm. We lived there for 12 years, probably a little bit longer than I lived there 12 years. My sister's 21 months older than me, mm-hmm. and but that was home for my first 12 years. Then we moved to 4th Street, 555 4th Street, and Randy lived at 455 4th Street. And but I've known Randy since pre-kindergarten days. we played in the dirt there. My grandmother lived in the Card Apartments, and Randy family lived in Francis Apartments. And Randy and Arthur and I play over in the dirt and whatever. And so we've known each other a long, long, long time. And I would come and stay with her. Of course, I'd go look for Randy or whatever.
So you're where you grew up is like where the VFW or the
it's
AMVETS.
That was our field. We had a field there. That's we lived in a wood frame house. I still have the papers where Dad built the house at.
Now, where was it in relation to where the AMVETS is there now?
If you take a right and you go towards Blythewood, there's a road directly across that road that goes up to the hill up there.
Yeah.
Okay, AMVETS is there. South was where our house was. Right there. Okay. That was our field.
Now, my grandmother lived at the top, right behind
at Varnell Road.
Varnell, and there
we're up at the top.
That was my grandfather and grandmother, Willie Moore.
Yeah,
and they lived right there on top of the hill.
Well, there was
and then my aunt and uncle ran the country kitchen.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, well, see, that was built on that property. We moved to town.
Yeah, that's where Bobby Tinsley is married my dad's little sister, and they ran the country kitchen, all the chicken you could eat for $1. And I remember when they went to $1.25 and thought it was going to ruin their business.
well, see, there wasn't anything
right
all the way down the ridge. Mac Hall, J. Mac Hall, I believe, owned the ridge. He and Isabel, and they lived on Blythewood Road. The Dentons, Ben and Margie Denton live right there where the TVA place is, right there, in a white frame house. As you go south, go past that. Instead of turning to go to Blythewood, the next house was Mr. and Mrs. Kane, and they had a mobile home park in the later years, and they were my neighbors. I tell you, she's just a grand lady.
So you got to hear the races?
Oh, on Saturday night we didn't have air conditioning and the windows were up, so you didn't go to bed till they turned the last engine off and all the cars left.
And the dust had to be horrendous.
I only went a couple of times in my lifetime down the races because I grew up with it, I guess.
It's right there.
But there was
Let me ask you something about these halls. I have been doing some research down there trying to determine that's funny that you mentioned it, where the Hall property was. So it was on both sides of the road there, going down South Lee Highway, you think?
I don't know if he owned on up across.
Because J-Mac Circle surely comes
where
from
the
him.
TV center is, back in there, that was McCamey Hall all back up in there, I know, at one time.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah. And matter of fact, he lived right back up there. McCamey lived right there on Bluff Ferry Road. Just before he got to the...
Well, I should have asked Ron, shouldn't I?
Well, see, you've been living with all that knowledge.
You're going to open your mouth, Ron.
Ask Ron.
I never get a chance. Bubba. Hey, good morning. You're live on Old Town Cleveland.
Hello, Peggy.
Hey, Peggy. What's going on, Miss Ella?
I'm sitting outside, and it's really nice outside.
Right, it's been a cool August, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has.
I think yesterday was only the 5th time this summer it got to over 90 degrees.
Yeah.
And,
you know, my son came down from Dayton, Ohio, and he celebrated my birthday with me. We went last Friday and Saturday, both. He liked to throw that. You know, he's going to come down the 20th and go again.
Well, that's good, everything. So, how drunk did you get?
No, I didn't even drink a full bottle. I swear I didn't.
How many times did you fill the bottle back up?
Yeah. I know you're trying to get me to say
Well, see, I get reports on you all the time about how drunk you get.
Yeah. The only time I got drunk was when I was married.
Well, no, that's how come you got married, wasn't it? You got drunk.
That's when I drank a whole bottle of vodka.
God.
I was much younger then.
Yeah, but that make you get older real quick.
Yeah.
Oh,
Anyway, I got to go Monday to the doctor's. He's wanting me to come in. I hope ain't nothing real bad wrong with my blood work or anything. I know I had that vertigo, and I'm still dizzy on the left side when I lay down.
From the vodka.
I used to have a vertigo. That's made my Dodge, isn't it? Oh, that was a Valiant. No, wait a minute, that's something else.
Hey, the car show's today.
It sure is.
Oh, is it?
I was thinking it was next week, and it's today.
Well, it'll be nice up there being cool. All right, Miss Ella, you continue to celebrate that birthday.
So I will.
Bye, Miss Ella.
Bye-bye.
I wanted to remind everybody that from 1 to 3 today at the Red Ribbon on Central Avenue, they'll have a book signing, and the book is based on the story about Carrie Smith Lawson that disappeared in Alabama, the murder. And but that author will be here from 1 to 3 at the Red Ribbon.
I definitely want to go get a book. Good morning, you're live on Old Town Cleveland.
Good morning, Ron. How you doing?
I'm doing fine, Bullet.
Let me pull over here real fast, please. Behind me, I'm using my cell phone. Okay, go ahead.
All right.
I just wanted to say that you made that question too hard on me last night.
Well, did you hear the answer?
No, I didn't.
Well, let Bubble know the answer. Bob Johnson had the same number when he played at Bradley.
69.
Nope.
Oh, wait.
No, and then at UT, and then when he was a Cincinnati Bengal, he had the same number.
Wait a second. Well, he's a center. He would have been a 50s in
Right.
the 50s.
54.
54. Is that right? God.
54 there, Bullet. That's,
Okay, well, I never heard the answer because the TV kept blinking on.
yeah, they was having some technical problems there last night. So, yeah, it's number 54. And then I think Tom, who came later, his brother wore 54 at Bradley and then at there. But I don't know about Paul. Paul played for Cleveland. Yeah. I don't know if he wore 54 at Cleveland and 54 at UT or not.
I'd forget.
Well, I'd never guessed that. Never.
Well, see, I said, what can I beat Bullet on? That was my
well, you beat me.
Well, and see, Joe gave it away last night. He said, I said, I kept giving hints and like that, and he says, yeah, and it was the same number that Dale Jones wore up there, number 54, wasn't it? And I went, yeah, Joe, that's the co-announcer. And I says, people ought to be able to get it now, Joe.
make it a little bit easier on me one of these times, but no, I'd never thought of that.
Well, I tell you, it has to be a tough one to beat Bullet.
Well, no, not that much. Anyway, I'm just keep on Mark Grissom in your. I called first morning. They wouldn't let me talk to him. He's bad sick. He's throwing up, and he's kind of bad off.
What's wrong with Mark?
He's got appendix.
Appendicitis.
Oh.
They're going to run some more tests on him Monday, and I tried to call first morning. He's throwing up, and he's in bad shape.
Well, I thought, and just, I can say this with Mark's friend because I thought he might be full of bull or something like that, and they were trying to remove it.
But I am kind of getting over my problem, finally, I hope. I got a registered letter the other day, Ron from Sky Ridge. They want me to come back up there, and it scared the heck out of me. They said I had a twist in my colon. What that is, if it gets worse, I'm going to have to go up there, and they might have to straighten my colon out. Right now, I'm using it, so it's not real serious, but they was wanting to inform me.
That might be what's wrong with Miss Ellis. She's got a twist.
Good talking to you.
All right, Bullet. Good talking to you. I'd like to always thank Bullet and his brother take care of the veteran cemetery here in Cleveland. They go up and volunteer and keep that clean and help set the stones. And so sure is a great service those two men do for our community. So
that is.
They kind of keep up with stuff, too. If that headstone doesn't show up when it's supposed to, Bullet's right on it, and he's calling people and looking for it and make sure that they're set correctly and straight as they can put them.
I imagine you went to Black Fox then?
Well, I went to Arnold, as did Janice. When they changed Arnold to a junior high, I was going to be in the 6th grade. So that was the year they opened up George R. Stewart. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, now, when you lived down in South Lee, though,
I went to Black Fox,
my
6th grade.
Yeah. Good morning. You're live on Old Town Cleveland.
How you doing, Ron?
I'm doing fine, Brett.
Good.
So what's going on?
Hey, I was going to let you know, Toddy and Hickson was supposed to be playing Friday tomorrow. tomorrow. No, not tomorrow. Yesterday.
Uh-huh.
And they got pushed back till today.
Right. They had storms in the area, so they did push back some ball games. If you was up at the Bradley game, we watched the storm go across the western sky, which apparently tore up Ray County and Hickson and all that area. But we could see it just go down through there, and we thought it was coming our way, but it missed us.
Yeah.
So what did you think about that Bradley game last night, Brett?
I was really mad after the game.
Well, Bradley dug himself in a hole and filled that hole back up and come back, and then got back in another hole and just ran out of time.
Yeah, the player for Polk County.
Yeah.
He's big.
Oh, Zach Miller. Yes, he's a big boy.
That's why we can't stop him, Ron.
Yeah, well, no one else has been able to stop him either, so don't feel bad. I think he had 168 yards last night.
Our next home game, Ron?
Yes.
Next Friday.
At Riverdale comes to town.
Yes.
Well, Riverdale got beat the other night. Oakland beat them pretty bad.
It's Murfreesboro?
Yeah.
Okay.
The pregame people are going to be at Bradley.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I'm going to be on their show.
All right. Well, we'll be looking for you.
All right.
Yeah, make sure you wear black and gold.
All right.
Yeah, don't be wearing no blue shirt. All right. We'll see, Brett.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
The mention of Murfreesboro reminded me of something. Back in the times before there were roads and things through the area, there were giant, Indian trails. And one trail is called the Black Fox Trail. And it goes all the way over to Murfreesboro because that was Black Fox's big hunting grounds. And there's still a Black Fox Springs over there. And the only other Black Fox school, when you Google Black Fox School, will come up is the one in Bradley County and the one in Murfreesboro. But you can, and I've been told that there's a cave over there that's supposed to have Black Fox's name written on the inside of it, but I've never seen it myself.
I don't go in caves.
And Ron doesn't do caves.
When you're tall, caves are not.
No.
I would really like to see more historical markers and things identified in the Black Fox community, because there's some really old houses and things down in there that have not been marked, and Ron will tell you that I drive him crazy working on that, but I'm working on it. But I have to congratulate the folks up in Charleston at the Hiwassee Heritage Center there, and everybody needs to stop by and see that. It's a nice little museum up there now in Charleston, and it's long overdue, but Charleston has basically become a certified site on the National Trail of Tears, and you'll be reading about that in the newspaper soon, and it needed to be. It was the center of the removal, and it needed to be recognized. And we also need to remember that they're having the Cowpea Festival up there on Saturday, September the 14th.
Well, that...
I noticed that spelled PEA, too.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
we talked about cowpeas for 2 hours last week.
It's a vegetable.
It's a vegetable.
Good morning, live on Old Town Cleveland.
Yes, hold on 1 second. Joan, here. They're on the phone and it's a man already. Hello?
Hello.
Hi, my name is Joan. I called to talk to Bubba.
What do you say, Joan? I know who this is.
Yeah.
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I see you on Facebook from time to time.
Yeah, I get on there once in a while.
Tell you what. Well, you need to be answering some of these questions or that I'm getting hit with from time to time.
Well, I'm actually in the house cooking, and I don't have you on the radio, but I had you in the car and thought I had to call and tell you, hey.
Well, gosh, I certainly do appreciate that.
Yeah. So I'm getting married again.
Oh, well, congratulations.
Thank you. Lost my husband in September, and now I'm remarrying.
Oh, my goodness. I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, it happens.
When was it that we had the we went down to McDonald's school that Sunday?
A couple of years ago.
It's been the last couple of years. I couldn't remember exactly the date.
Yeah, it was like a couple of years ago. I enjoyed it. We need to do it again.
Oh yeah, that a lot of memories down there. Needless to say, that's a couple of my revered years. I really enjoyed down there, and I think I made a whole $6,336 a year teaching school.
Well, you were a good teacher.
I enjoyed it, and funny thing was, I wasn't much older than y'all were.
I know. You're just about, about 5 or 6 years older than me?
Well, I tell people, I said, well, it was always your last name. They called you Cry. Yeah. Just like Neil Henry was Henry.
Yeah.
But they still respected, the students respect you, but that's just the way it was. And, well, I tell you what, I really spread, Joan, whenever I was down there, because Claire Bates' mama could cook.
Oh, yeah.
And those other ladies in the kitchen. Oh, yeah. I mean, it was, and they see me coming, they'd put me an extra plate of beans or turnip greens or whatever on my plate. They knew I could eat it. That's just good eating.
Yeah.
It's a good place. And
especially their fried chicken on Friday.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes.
Well, now, next week you're going to have to tune in and listen to me. I'm going to be on there next week.
Are you really?
I am.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you. We're going to talk about snake handling in churches.
Oh,
amen, brother.
Oh, man, Joan. I didn't know about you.
Hey,
I didn't know.
Joan, let me pass one rule on to you.
Okay.
No live demonstrations. We can talk about it all. We can show pictures, but we will not have any live demonstrations.
Oh. I don't handle them. My family did, but I don't.
Well, Joan, we're looking so forward to that. We'll see you about a 9:45 next week then, okay?
Okay. In between time, give me a call. I want to talk to you.
Okay.
Joan, Deb and I went out and went to the Dolly Pond Cemetery. Where the Hardens and Fords and Hensleys and people are buried. And it just it's a little bitty cemetery on the side of the hill now, just a little tiny place. And it took us a while to find it, but pretty amazing to know about the history that come out of the Hardens and the Fords and some of the other names around Beatty's and things that took part in that.
Yeah, it was, of course, my family was involved in, we were Walkers and Keisleys were Keisleys back then.
Yeah.
Whereabouts did you attend church that they did that?
Well, mine went to, there was a place in Saudi Daisy they went to, and then Dolly Pond, and Charlie Fritz's house. They go over there a lot and have services at his house.
I see.
That's in Saudi Daisy, but I'm Church of God, but I go, I'm actually a member of Pine Hill, but I hadn't been there in a while since my husband passed away.
Well, you know that the first snake handling preacher was appointed by A.J. Thompson of the Church of God.
Really?
Yeah. George Wynn Hensley was a Church of God minister.
Right.
Now, they separated from him after he got more popular in the snake handling genre, I guess. But I thought that was interesting.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's I look forward to it. It's a great story.
Yeah. I guess, Bubby, you didn't think you had a student that was like that, did you, back then?
I certainly didn't, I must say. I would never have been looking for the shovel to try to kill the one down there
Joan,
we saw one time.
Joan, did you ever pick up the snake?
No.
You never picked up snake?
No.
Okay.
I've never been in the services. I've seen them handle the fire, but not the snakes. So.
Oh, well, that's going to
be interesting, Joan. I'll have to stay at home next Saturday to listen to that. That'll be something.
Yeah.
Well, listen, if you hear me unable to answer a question, you just call back.
Okay, well, I'll try to get you on the radio. I'll get my son to plug up my radio.
Okay, Joan.
Thanks, Joan. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bubba, we're not worried about you answering the question. We just weren't worried about you telling the truth, maybe. Can we just... of course, you know what? If you talk about real old subjects, it's harder for people to. They either forgot or they're already moved on, and so you can tell stories about things happened in the 1800s all day long, and people, God, I didn't
get
know
away
that.
with it.
Yeah.
Didn't you?
Now, Bubba, do you remember the old school building for Black Fox? I mean, was it there in your lifetime? It was.
Well, like I say, I went to New Black Fox School, and if I'm not mistaken, I think Winston Campbell may have either sold the property or maybe donated it for that school to be built. So I was there the the first year they had the new Black Fox School, which was a prototype, I guess you say, for North Lee, Valley View. All of them are built on the same level.
Well, you wouldn't recognize it now. We have about
there it
we
is.
have
That's the new addition down
about 520 kids at Black Fox now. It's a bustling little place, and I tell you, it is. I'm proud to be associated
there. Who was
with
the principal down at Black Fox?
Johnny Cartwright.
See, yeah,
And Mr. Cartwright I think he had 7th and 8th grade. I was in the 6th. I had Mrs. Brandon. Mrs. Newman was, I think, the 5th grade, I believe.
Miss Kelly?
Miss Stone?
And then Mrs. Stone, Tootsie Stone, L.G. Stone's wife, was teacher there.
Mrs. Stone kept pictures from almost every year that she taught, and they're in great big notebooks. And I guess it's her granddaughter has them now, and brings them through every now and then and shows me something. The school actually started down there. You know, the schooling the children in the community was a community's problem back in the 1800s. If you had a school, you had to organize it and hire a teacher on your own and do all those kinds of things. So in 1898 or so, Will Easterly from down in that community went over to Nashville and got permission to start a somewhat better school in the community. And it started over there on the east side of the tracks, over close to the Allen store is now. And the old building that you remember, Johnny Cartwright's house was up on the hill across there. And well, your family lived up on sold him that property, didn't
he?
Yeah.
You'd cross the railroad track and the school was right there on the right.
Right.
And the playground was back behind.
So they got it was basically a charter school is what it was. And so they started the school there in 1898. And down on the walls at Black Fox School, we have a couple of pictures hanging there, but we don't know the names of the children. So if anybody's listening that has one of those old pictures, hopefully sometime it has run in the newspaper that had all the names or something, and maybe you can help me name those. I've started a bulletin board down at Black Fox, and it tickles me to death to see the children looking at it. That it's the history. I put historic Black Fox, and as I have time, I add one more building, and they'll say I see that on the bus, and it tickles me to death. But I haven't got very much done on it yet because it's been a busy school year. So 1898 is when the building was built and the school was started.
Well, Janice has a picture of Mother, who was Mary Rosaltha Lacey, and then my aunt. And I didn't know till I looked at this piece of paper that Janice gave me. The Angela was actually Angelina. But anyway, Angela Lacey, she married Pulo Giles. And then
these names.
Well, M.P. Giles was his name, but they called him Pulo. But some people call him Trigger. But anyway, my uncle, I called him Uncle Bud, but Guy Lacey Jr., we have a picture that Janice, I think, hangs over at her house, just little insets of their head, and they're in a classroom. It's their school picture. And I don't know how many, but I think they all were in the same one-room schoolhouse, maybe. I would guess is what it was.
Oh, I'd like to see that.
But whenever Mother, you got to keep in
mind. Now, what year was your mom born?
She was born 20. Dad was born 17. And Mother, when we crossed the railroad track, there's a house that was towards the bend of the railroad track, sat back on down in some trees. But, I mean, you could see it's a 2-story. But if you went on, there was a road. The road to that house went right beside my grandfather, where my grandfather lived, Granddaddy, I call him. And he was right across from the schoolhouse. And so that's where Mother lived, as far as I know, as she was growing up. And
for those of you who may not be familiar with the area, that would be close to where Old Chattanooga Pike and Tunnel Hill Road splits, correct? No?
It's after you cross, right after you cross the railroad track, before you ever round the bend there where Johnny Cartwright lived across from Herman Allen. And so when the family sold it, Mr. Cartwright bought it.
Now, didn't he use some rodeos right back there? The
Rutin Club had a ring there where the school was.
That's where I played.
There's a trailer sitting there now because the other day I went to take a picture of the rodeo ring, and the rodeo ring's not there anymore.
Well, that's where I played my first musical show at, was in that little old red building.
That's where you got your start,
Ron. We thought that was huge. I think we got paid $10 that night. And on the first song, our drummer hit his cymbal, and it turned over, and it cut our only microphone cord in two. So that was my start into the music business. So you had to pay your dues, and boy, I paid mine early.
Oh, that's funny.
Of course, the cord cost us $12, and we made 10. So.
Well, Herman Allen's store was on the right there, and I
Tell us about going in that store when you were younger.
Well, I would ride my bicycle. We lived on South Lee Highway, and I'd ride my bicycle down there and go in there and just have a soda pop or something. And Herman being there, he just had there was a bed, as I remember, when I went
inside the store
on the left-hand side, a bed. And I was telling Debbie the other day, it had a picture of the quintuplets that were Asian, I believe, and one of them had passed away, and it showed the remaining one standing there beside the coffin, and showed the one in the coffin. He had a picture of that, and I don't know, just for some reason that sticks. I don't remember a whole lot. I don't even remember where I got my drink at in the store, but anyway, Herman was my uncle Bud would come to town and bring my cousin Lacey, and we'd always go to Herman's. I mean, we'd stop by down there. He'd like to ride.
So you lived on South Lee Highway, and you had to ride your bicycle all the way down Varnell Road to get to Allen's store.
I'd ride down just to go
you
down.
Kids don't do that anymore.
No.
First off, you
can't
can't let
them.
kids anymore, but not only did you have to ride down Varnell Road, you had to cross a railroad track. And, I guess that's 4 miles away?
It's a pretty good little drive. And I was just thinking as I rode, yesterday as I was riding in, some of the people live down through there. Now, I'm probably going to miss a bunch of people.
Who are they?
The road fork past Herman's.
Yeah.
And as I remember, I think Stanley and Eleanor Goins and their daughters Linda and Teresa lived on the right there in the home, but they actually moved up to Old Chattanooga Road later, I guess. But we would go, for some reason we went there. Somebody left. I think that's who it was. But if you went to the left, in the point was Bass and Sybil Denton lived there. Mm-hmm. And then the next house was my dad's brother, Uncle Leonard, and Aunt Margaret Cry. And you go on down, Miss Ola Bullington, who taught school at Bradley, I'd see her car come across the ridge coming from time to time, riding home, but where we lived on South Lee Highway. But anyway, she lived down there, and Ronnie Shoemaker lived here, and Mr. and Mrs. Franklin Chase and her daughter Kitty lived across the street, and then the Higdon lived there, and then Mrs. Higdon, Vicky Osmond Beatty, lived with her grandmother. They right there what is the road that goes between Blue Springs and McDonald? What is that road that comes over from Blue Springs?
Bullington?
Whatever.
Well, there's a Bullington that runs across that way.
That road that comes across, I don't know, it crosses Tunnel Hill there. But if you went on down, there was Jesse and Steve Raper lived down there, and Gail Roberts, she's in our graduating class, and Sandy Hardwick and her family, and Gans on. I rode the bus a couple of times. I was spending the night with somebody, and I rode it. So I got to see the end of that bus route, and then Mr. Fitzgerald drove the other bus. Ott Fitzgerald would drive the other one.
Now, the difference in communities now is name 5 people that live in your community now.
Oh, yeah, I couldn't tell you.
I can tell you last names, but I'm not sure if I saw them at Walmart, I'd know them anymore. So you just don't know your neighbors like you used to.
If you went to the right, you went down towards Bethel Baptist.
My great-grandparents are buried at Bethel Baptist. The Watsons, they owned a big farm down on Tunnel Hill Road.
Well, there was my Uncle Harold and Aunt Eva Kate Cry, Lauderback. They lived, there's a little offset there, that road I'm talking about that came in right there, like before we got to the Johnson's home place. If you went across, took a left and real fast right, went down to a dead-end road, and that's where the Lauderback home place was.
Yeah, now that's where
Summerfield bought it years ago.
Yeah, was the resort up there too, the Lauderback Resort?
No, that I don't know. It may have been.
Well, I got a picture of here. I think I'll put up.
Oh, we talked about Powder Springs last week, and when I got home, Doyle Palmer called me and told me where that Powder Springs is located. Wow. He says you go down by Bachman Home and go around
Resort.
Wow.
You go around by Brimer Creek, go down Brimer Creek, and he says when you get to a piece of guardrail, that the spring's located just over on the other side of the guardrail. And Ron's showing a picture of Lauderback Springs here, and it's 3 stories high. Mm-hmm. And the stories of those resorts are just absolutely fascinating.
Yeah,
how they got materials there and how they entertained people and got them there from the railroads.
And all the different drinking water. At Mineral Springs down there's like 5 different springs with 5 different types of water within 25, 30 feet. Yeah, it's unbelievable.
It comes out of the mountain.
It was. You mean different types?
Yeah, it's like
arsenic
iron
and magnesium and.
Oh, God.
Good morning, you're live on Old Town Cleveland.
Yeah, this is T. Bandy.
Hey, T. Bandy, what's up, buddy?
Yeah, I got a fish truck coming the 21st.
Okay.
At 11 o'clock.
At the co-op?
Just co-op.
All right, and if somebody needs to order fish for their pond, what number do they call?
I just got through talking to Neil Henry. I said, I didn't even know you was a principal.
And he said what?
Yeah, he said he worked at McDonald's for a couple of years and said he got.
He was there longer than a couple of years. Oh, golly.
He said he got tired of listening to them kids and said that he'd rather hear the chickens in the chicken houses, all them kids. So
I tell you, those kids loved him. He's a great guy.
Neil's a great guy.
Oh,
I've known him for 40-something years.
Golly. And he's just an interesting fellow. I remember the first time I went to his house, he had these dogs. I think they were called Catahoulas.
Yeah.
And they were wild hog dogs. And I didn't know. He just told me where he lived, and I rode over there and pulled in. And I thought they was going to eat the metal off the side of my car. They looked so vicious. And he comes out the door and tells them, and they just go their own way. He comes out there. But Neil's a really good guy. He was an institution at McDonald's School.
He's good. And somebody had been getting his fish out of his lake, and somebody that lived there, and he'd been buying fish every time my truck run, and he quit buying. So he said he got rid of the people that was getting his fish out of his lake.
He got rid of them.
He said the ones that are fishing now was throwing them back in, so he wouldn't need them.
You're talking about over the hill there? As you go over his hill from his house, by the chicken house and that way?
Yeah.
Oh, gosh, I thought they'd have to go through the woods to get there.
I don't know. He said people that lived there, said he stopped them from getting his fish. Said they was fishing them all out factor and he could put them in there.
And that's something.
T, tell us the number people can call if they need to order fish in case somebody's got all of them.
478-2405.
There you go for your fish, and they'll be delivered here, the 21st?
21st of
September.
Two days before my birthday.
There you go. How old are you going to be this year?
I'm going to be 80, unfortunately.
Congratulations.
No, hey, 80. Hey, the alternative's not too good, so 80's a really good number.
Yeah.
All righty, T. We'll talk to you later, buddy.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
You know, we were talking about when I was in the 6th grade, I went to Black Fox. I may be wrong, but I think that was the first time they had indoor bathrooms, if I'm not mistaken. And that would have been, I'd have been, 12 maybe, 11 or 12, about 59 or 60.
Mm-hmm.
I may be wrong.
The school building?
That school building.
I don't know. Oak Grove was built in 56. So
it was a little bit older.
Yeah.
I just remember all of them looked very similar.
It was really a smart plan. I mean, they came in and they built all the buildings to look basically the same, and then they came back later and built library buildings and stuff like that onto them. And with them being just long, skinny halls, you could kind of build on.
I was at Oak Grove when we built the pod, so that was the new craze of pod. I taught in that pod. I taught in that pod, and that drove you crazy trying to arrange furniture in there because the boards and things were off center to the angles of the room, and it just didn't work well with my brain. The kids and I wore those desks out, moving them round and around till I could, so that everybody could see. You know what always made me the mess? There was no air conditioning in those schools. Open a window.
Wow.
If the teacher was nice, you could open the window. It's summertime.
I just can't imagine now how hot it had to be in those classrooms and stuff. Of course, that maybe was some reason that we didn't go back to the middle of September and we got out the end of May.
I used to enjoy the steam radiators, listen to them things bang. That just amused me.
Now, we haven't got, it hadn't been too long ago, in the last 10 years or so, I think we finally got all those radiators out of the school systems.
Let me ask you a question. Is there when we're talking about Black Fox, is there a defined area, what you call Black Fox? Is it when you cross the railroad track there, coming down, cut off to Old Chattanooga Road and go that way? Is it when you cross the road where Wayne Barnell's dairy?
I have no idea.
I don't think I don't think it's just there's no official boundary. It's never been a community. I mean,
I'd say it's somewhere between Payne Gap and McDonald.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the reason I'm saying that because they closed East Cleveland that year and brought students down from East Cleveland, not East Cleveland, West Cleveland school. And
now West Cleveland was up behind the Dairy Cream.
Right.
Okay.
That's right. Yeah. And they came to Black Fox when I was in.
And that was
a
county school at that time.
And it was, and they.
Which is at Smith Drive. If somebody didn't know what we're talking about.
I always thought it might be once you got off there, where your grandparents lived, and went on down, and then down where L.G. Stone lived. That road that I don't know. Can't call the names, but
I'd say once you get to Mr. Johnston's property, which grows every day, that was Bendabout's farm, which was another Cherokee, and so I think that you kind of have Black Fox, and then you have the Bendabout properties, and then you have McDonald. To me, in my brain,
someone asked me to ask you to talk about this morning. We're listening. You're listening to. No, we're listening too. But you're listening to Old Town Cleveland here on Whoop FM 99.9. You can call us here at 614-5553. And this is the world according to Bubba today. We're talking about McDonald and Black Fox, and I love hearing you talk about all those people and those names I know down the Higdons and the Louderbacks.
Isn't it funny how in those times, not that it was so long ago, but the Higgins they would occupy that property for a great amount of time, and now we're so much more migrant. We'll just move. We have to move to get certain jobs, and we move into certain neighborhoods for certain reasons. So I think now we move more quickly than we used to. You used to just build you a house over on the backside of your grandpappy's farm.
Yeah. Right. Deb, someone down you spoke about Benabout. There's a old grave on there, and it's related. The person's related to Daniel Boone.
I understand that there's a Daniel Boone buried in the Triplet Cemetery, which is down close to the Easterly Farm. It's across from the Easterly Farm, and you can go there and visit. Behind the Wolf Home Place. There's a Daniel Boone there, and he is the nephew of Daniel Boone, and he came into the area and I believe married one of the Stone girls or one of the Triplet girls. Don't remember off the top of my head, but that is a very historic cemetery, and it's an integrated cemetery, which is really unusual that there are some black people buried in the cemetery that had worked for families.
Good morning. You're on Old Town Cleveland.
Good morning, Ron. It's Jerry Frazier.
Hi, Jerry.
What do you say, Jerry?
Good morning. I've enjoyed your program so far, and talking about Neil Henry and many of my other friends. But also, Bubba was quite the athlete. I guess that's where we got together, was on the Little League team 100 years ago. And
when the ball was made out of rock.
I wanted to talk about his mom's athleticism and some things that he might have inherited. I'll hang up and listen.
Oh, no, Jerry, stay on there. Now, Mother played basketball at Bradley and had an opportunity to get to go to, I guess at that time it was called University of Chattanooga, to school, and she had to go to work to help support my grandmother, so she didn't get to go to college. But even after I was in high school, we didn't miss very many basketball games when I was growing up. Dad stayed up in the back and gambled a little bit on them, and Mother and I didn't sit down much. I was out popping paper cups and stuff, but she would go, and then when she was in a wheelchair, she'd sit on the side of the floor there, and she really enjoyed it. And whenever she was there at Garden Terrace, she always listened to the basketball games, and she had several friends that had Mary Ramsey's mother, Yolanda, I think her name's Yolanda, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, was a good friend of hers, and I'm trying to think of somebody else, Jerry, I can't remember. But anyway, she was evidently pretty good, and she was tall and slender, and she liked her sports, the basketball side of it at least. Anyway, I wasn't much of an athlete. Jerry was behind the plate, and he'd tell me what to throw. And I didn't always hit the mitt. Sometimes I hit the players.
As long as you hit something, it's okay.
I got Randy in here, Jerry, and I can't get him to get on the earphones.
I'm dead. He probably can't get the floor down there with you three.
Oh, no, it's not been difficult. He could have butt in just any time.
Well, you've got to get him on there before you get off, because he's quite knowledgeable.
Yeah, he would.
Y'all have a great day.
Hey, well, thanks a lot, Jerry, for calling in. I appreciate it.
All right. See ya.
Best you and Tamara.
Hey, guys, we got to take a quick break here. We'll be back in about 3 or 4 minutes with Bubba Cry and talking about McDonald and Black Fox. Don't go away.
WOOP LP, Cleveland, Tennessee.
Debbie Moore, co-host of Whoops Old Town Cleveland, has released a regional history book, Confederate Voices. The book is available at the Red Ribbon, the Museum Center at Five Points, and at www.oldtowncleveland.com. And be sure to tune in every Saturday morning at 10 for Old Town Cleveland, right here on Whoop FM.
Check into Cash.
Hi, this is Lisa with Check Into Cash. We give you more money for your title and guarantee the lowest title loan rate anywhere. Visit checkintocash.com and get a quick estimate on your vehicle. Save more and get more at Check Into Cash. Loyal customers have trusted us for 20 years, and you can too. Restrictions apply. Bring proof of lower rate on similar title loan. Visit checkintocash.com for the store nearest you.
Get on down. Check Into Cash.
Wheeler Technologies has moved. Visit them at their new location at 490 Grove Avenue Southwest next to Bradley Rentals. Same great folks, same great service with a better location to serve you. Call Wheeler Technologies for voice, data, and security needs at 664-TECH. That's 664-8324. And remember, depend on Wheeler Technologies for the current time and temperature every day at 476-1111. Tennessee Alarm Contractor C1750.
Did you know that local businesses produce more income, jobs, and taxes that stay in your local community than national chain stores do? For every $100 spent in a locally owned business, $45 stays in the local economy, while only $15 stay locally when you buy at a national chain store. When you buy from Mermaid Mattress, you are shopping local. Plus, when you buy direct from the factory, you get a better mattress at a better price, guaranteed. But only at Mermaid Mattress here in Cleveland. 1/2 mile off 25th Street on Georgetown Road, right here in beautiful Cleveland, Tennessee. Call 472-2486. Locally in Cleveland at Mermaid Mattress. Find out why Frodaddy and Matador both sleep on a locally made mattress at Mermaid. You give them a call at 472-2486.
Mermaid Mattress Factory and Showroom.
Kiesler Incorporated is in the business of recycling your metal, and they pay cash. The only covered scrapyard around where you can recycle rain or shine. They're located off the bypass on Overhead Bridge Road. Automobiles, appliances, copper, stainless steel, tin, all metals can be recycled at Kiesler, and you can walk away with cash. That's right, they pay cash, and they are the friendliest scrapyard in the Southeast. If you have unwanted metal just laying around, bring it to Kiesler Recycling today and walk away with cash. Kiesler Recycling open Monday through Saturday, 7:30 to 5, or call for more details, 614-3000.
I'm Matt Esterman. Here's a look at your weather forecast. Partly sunny skies today with highs in the mid to upper 80s. A slight chance for an afternoon shower. Lows overnight in the mid 60s and partly sunny Sunday with highs in the mid to upper 80s. That's a look at your weather forecast on Whoop FM.
Just when you thought it couldn't get any better, we add more great music right here on 99.9 Whoop FM.
An old cowpoke went riding out one dark and windy day. Upon a ridge he rested as he went along his way. When all at once a mighty herd of red-eyed cows he saw, a-plowing through the ragged skies and up a cloudy draw. Give me a hand. hands were still on fire and their hooves were made of steel. Their horns were black and shiny and their hot breath he could feel. A bolt of fear went through him as they thundered through the sky, for he saw the...
You are listening to WOOP-LP, Cleveland, Tennessee. WOOP FM is a broadcasting service of the Traditional Music Resource Center, and we play America's original music.
Where'd the old town go? They moved it on north of here in a shopping mall.
Welcome back to Old Town Cleveland here on WOOP FM 99.9, or you can go to the internet at www.woopfm.com. You can call us here at 614-5553. We got Bubba Cry here talking about McDonald and Black Fox, and we got a caller on there. Hey, Bernice. Hold on a second here. Let me see if I can get you. Try it again now, Bernice.
Okay, you got me?
I got you now, yeah.
Okay, the Korean veteran had 3 bushels of purple peas. They're gone. The beans is gone. He had 2 bushels of okra. It's gone. But remember, he'll be there Tuesday and Thursday with a whole load more.
Well, did he have any lazy beans today?
Yeah, he had some lazy beans, but I'm going to call them stringless beans. Don't care what happened last time.
Well, we can't help what Fro hears.
I know. But we appreciate you got stringless beans.
There you go.
Okay.
Yeah, we ain't going to say no lazy beans no more. Love you guys.
Love you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, we had 2 or 3 calls there about people. One of the former Bullingtons works with you down at Black Fox. Good morning. You're live on Old Town Cleveland.
Good morning, Bubba and Randy and the Moore family.
Good morning.
Hey, Doug.
Get Randy to get on a microphone and talk about when he satisfied Montgomery Cliff's desire for some alcohol. That's a great story.
He's acting like he's bashful sitting over in the corner today, but maybe he'll come.
Hiding completely.
He didn't come back in after break.
He may take.
He's missing in action, Doug.
He's out there smoking a cigarette.
Yeah, that might be true now.
It's awfully tough to be in here 45 minutes and not have one.
And Bubba, I want you to talk a little bit about bootlegging. I know you know something about that.
Well, I must say that
no first-hand experience.
Don't start now, Bubba. Let me hang up so I can turn my radio off.
Oh, okay. All righty.
I'll tell you that Keith Beatty said you used to be a good athlete till you got fat.
That's right. Believe me, I was never a good athlete. Believe me.
Keith Beatty thought you were.
Oh, my. Well, he's being over. He's gone overboard if he thought I was a good athlete.
Yeah, and Keith is getting old, you know.
Yeah.
A little forgetful.
No,
well, anyway, I'm
not.
The show, and it's good to hear your voice.
All right, good. Thanks for calling in, Doug.
All right, Bubba.
You take care. All righty.
All right, tell us about the bootleggers.
Well, I guess
name them.
I had an interesting youth. I think I told you that in previous phone calls that my dad liked to gamble at the ball games or whatever. But anyway, he used to kind of find liquor in Chattanooga at a particular store down there. And on Saturday morning, sometimes I'd come home from college and he'd say, "You'll ride Chattanooga." I knew exactly where I was going. And we'd go down there and he'd haul it back up for him and kept them in a steady supply. And as the story goes, one time I was at school. I wasn't with him this particular time. another guy actually drove his car that day, and they got pulled over by I don't know what it's called in Tennessee, the ABC people or whatever, maybe something. They pulled the car over, and they got up to the car, and they says, "You're not the guy we're looking for." Says, "We're looking for that guy that takes that little dog with him like that." They had the wrong guy. But anyway, they did probably confiscate it a little bit there. But, yeah, Rusty was one of my dad's good friends. And
now, did you ever know anything about the Sloans down in McDonald?
The Sloans?
Right.
Sloans may have been before Bubba's time.
Well, if you go...
they made a gallon or two.
Oh.
They
did moonshine.
You're right. And Mr. Easley used to...
See, by the time you were growing up, moonshine was kind of a novelty.
Yeah. It was. They would show it on the front page of the banner where they had their sledgehammers and had it sitting out there. I never did see whatever happened to the mash, but anyway, they would say they'd raided one, normally Polk County, around out in the county and Bradley
And then
County.
I think bootleggers became the deal, and they were chasing them more than the moonshine.
But the Sloan family, if you're going down South Lee Highway, after you pass Pine Hill there on the left, there's a house there on the right, a little white house. The reason I first learned about it, they sold that property off an auction, and my dad and I bought a piece of property there, and it had a little white shed on the back of it. And Deb was with us. We weren't married yet. We were dating, and we opened up that shed, and it had all these gallon jugs. I mean, glass.
Are you talking about after you go through McDonald?
No, just before you get to McDonald.
On the curve there.
Right, in the curve,
Come up beside the Johnson's house.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so we explained that was the Sloan property, which had been known to be the bootlegger there. And Mr. Easley told us some stories about he used to know where the stills were. And
well, he said the burn circles were still there on the property by the creek.
So now I don't know anything about the Sloan family, and I don't want to talk bad about the family, but that's what I was always told. And we had quite a bit of evidence of glass jugs.
What are all those gallon jugs for? And Ron's going, shh.
But, I'm sure that there's probably some more moonshine made somewhere through that area there.
Yeah, Mineral Park. Yeah, it had to be something down there. Either the water was good for you.
Now, and Mineral Park was such an interesting place, saying that it was literally you'd go 25 feet and there'd be another spring, and it'd be a different type of water. And there's geologists, studies done about this, and why this was magnesium and this one was iron, and they had arsenic water. And I kept figuring out, what would you use arsenic water for?
There was a...
it's supposed to kill the bacteria in your system. I go, yes, I guess that would work.
There was a geologist that came through here in the 1500s. His name was like Freestone Housen. It's a big long. It's a name about 26 letters long, but he talks about the iron water at what we now call Tucker Springs, and it's springs because there are multiple springs there, and one of them is an iron spring. But he talks about seeing the Indians there that had bathing areas for people to come bathe in the iron water to make them healthier.
And of course, for a long time, before our time, that they had resorts, 5 or 6 different resorts down in the McDonald area. There's Mineral Springs Resort,
Ball Springs,
Lauderback, Powder Springs, Tucker, and the train stop was there at Tucker Spring, and these people come from all over the country would spend a week or a month or the summer at, like, Ball Springs had cabins.
Especially in areas that they happen, to be a little bit more inner city, and people would get the yellow fever. And so the families would come and live out in the country for the summer months.
And someone said that the spring there for Lauderback was right directly behind where the hotel was. The spring was behind there. And they had some unique, they pumped water from... If the spring was down on the hill, they'd pump the water. I think Lauderback was around for a long time. It just burned in the
70s or something.
Really?
Yeah, it was. Wow. I think the old piano was still in there, and it burned. But it fell in disrepair, of course. But so McDonald had a big history.
But as towns developed, when we got to the 1920s, and there was, people used to take their children there. There was a bowling alley at Tucker Springs. and there was a big dance pavilion, so at night you'd be outside where it was cooler, and they had bands and all kinds of, really interesting things there for the children to do. But then in the 1920s, as the movie theaters and things became more popular inside the city and the risk of getting yellow fever and stuff went down, people had a tendency to summer in cities and big cities. And so things like Tucker Springs and all of that fell into disrepair. Also, as roads improved, they were able to get other places.
And
they quit riding the train.
And at Louderback, I understand that they had some areas of the Louderback Hotel was used for gambling. Big stake poker games and things were played down there. Yeah. So, because these people who moved into these resorts, although it cost you $12 a month, back in the early 1800s, that was pretty wealthy then. Deb, how did McDonald get his name? Do you know that there? I don't think
there's a couple of different theories. First of all, back in the days of John Ross, there was a man by McDonald that had a trading post in that area. Now, I think that's pretty much settles it for me right there. Yeah. But later on, when the railroad came through, by coincidence, the fellow that was in charge of the railroad there, his name was also McDonald. And so we don't know if it was named after the first one or the last one, but it doesn't really matter. The community's been there a great long time. The school was there. One of the earlier schools in the area. As a matter of fact, they boasted the fact that they had the earliest parent-teacher organization right there. There's pictures from the 1920s of women who were doing service for the schools.
They had some kind of parent, the women's parent organization or something. I got a picture of that. That's pretty amazing. That
somebody here online's telling me, going back to the bootleggers, that there was an old lady that every couple of weeks she'd go down to Chattanooga and pick up ceramic supplies to make ceramics with, and her old car would be all loaded down, and the cops kept seeing her run that routine route, and they finally stopped her, and they were really disappointed to find out she was just carrying ceramics.
Bubba, do you remember? Bubba,
can you see her going? What are you stopping?
Bubba, you remember? I know you said a lot of the family names there, but down in McDonald's, I mean, was the Borings and Roarks?
Well, there, as I remember, Jack Kyle, when I lived in the first house, then his father-in-law was Ernest Carson. And then the road that
went... Boy, that's an old Bradley County name.
And you take a right, go to the school. But when you took the right on your left was Sherlin's Grocery. Across the street, Mr. Logan ran the post office. And he also lived on the way to the school there. On the left
Bubba, you've passed that DeSoto sign a few million times, haven't you, out there on the highway? Well, it's missing now, as in the last couple of months. But I'm trying to get a little grant, and I don't think that'll be a problem. It's just be finding time to sit still long enough to write it to get that one replaced.
I think we only have one or two of the historical signs that's been put up in Bradley County.
In 1938, we had a whole slew. The Daughters of the American Revolution from Chattanooga came into Bradley County and put up signs. And it was the John Ross farm. That one's still standing. We dug it out from under the kudzu and put it back up. Rattlesnake Springs is missing. Fort Cass. Candies Creek Mission. Now, that brings up a good point, Ron. Someone informed me the other day that where Paul Huff hits Georgetown Road, there was a marker there for Chief Henry Candy.
That's right.
I need a picture of that, because I do not think that was an official Tennessee marker, but it was a marker that had been put up, maybe a local marker or something. I don't have the script for it, or I will replace it too through this grant. But I have to have the script because I don't know what it said. But what other ones are missing, Ron?
That
reminds me. Larry Bryant. Thank you. Works for the city putting up signs. We had the one for the Oak Grove Academy down at Oak Street at Central Avenue that marked the first school that was here in Cleveland. And the sign had been loose for 15 years. And it was going to get lost, or it was going to fall and hurt somebody. And when we mentioned it on the air one day, I had said that I had asked everybody to go fix it. Nobody could seem to get there. Well, Larry Bryant called in and said he'd go fix it, and it was fixed within 7 days.
So really thanks to Larry there. Something else I want to mention, and just a little push in the right direction, is that they're building a brand new city school out on Georgetown.
Saw that.
And it's right there on Candy Creek, right near where the Candy Creek Mission was. And that would be a great name for that school, Candy Creek Elementary.
I think so too. And I wrote all the folks. You folks can send your city school board members a nice little note. Tell them you think that's a great idea. Candies Creek Elementary School, and when we get the Candies Creek Mission
put
sign,
it there at that school because it's just right across the road, right through the woods back over there along the creek is where the Candy Creek, the earliest of all the white men coming into the Cherokee Nation with a school. It was the first mission school.
We're talking early 1800s.
1820,
I think.
Towards Jesse Bushyhead went to school there. There were really famous Cherokee names that went to school there, and I just think that to have the marker,
honor our history, name a school, Candy Creek, would be
elementary school.
That'd be great. Hey, good morning, live on Old Town Cleveland.
Good morning. You talking about that new school they're building on Georgetown?
Yes,
sir. And the name for it?
Yeah, well, they don't have a name yet.
Get on the name Y''S instead of the IES.
Wait, why is the name changed? Okay, in the beginning, it was named after the Candy family, Candy, and over the course of time, the white folks made it take on their English.
It was Candy's Mission, CADNY
apostrophe S,
and we got lazy and just named it a lot of Candies.
And also on Harris Creek, that was actually named after Hare Conrad, and for on the old maps it says Hares Creek, HAIRS. And so people that didn't know the background just put their English to it. And so I would really think it would need to say Candy, CAND, Y apostrophe S, Candy's Creek School.
Gets me, yeah.
And if they were to put the IES, I wouldn't protest. But you're right. There was a difference there.
Well, it's incorrect historically.
Yes,
you're correct. Yeah, and I agree with you. If we could spell it CAD and just put Candy Creek, CADNY or apostrophe S. I think that'd be great.
I will point that out to them. But I got back, not a note from everyone, but I got back emails from a lot of the people that I contacted that said thank you, that they hadn't gotten that far yet, but they would take that under consideration. And Merrill Dirkskin, that is a historian that's on the committee, he thought it was a great idea. So maybe we'll get it named that.
One more thing, Debbie.
Yes.
Would you do a story or a show one time about the Sotos travels through Bradley County? I tried to follow his route coming up through Georgia, and I just don't see him coming anywhere close to McDonald area.
That might be a problem with our story.
That may be the problem with the story. Well, I will tell you that when I took the Cherokee history course, the instructor of that course questioned it. But I know that they were at Savannah. There were diaries from the men that were with DeSoto that said they were at Savannah, which is where you turn to go to the farmer's market in Delano. So we know that they were there, and we know some other spots that they are. And apparently in the descriptions from some of the diaries, there are folks who think that they were around the springs in McDonald. It's why we think that they came through here. Of course, the Federal Road ran through there, so it'd make perfect sense that they were on the Federal Road. But I don't know, and I have been asked to research that for someone, and I'm just finding that there's just not enough material to come up with much new stuff there. But I would like to find someone that could possibly do something to help us talk about that time and place. I told Ron today, too, and something I think our listeners will really love, I'm going to set my mind to trying to find somebody to come in here and talk about the Battle of Chickamauga, since the 150th anniversary of that battle's coming up this September.
I just like to say DeSoto come to an Indian on Mouse Creek.
Oh, so you think he was in the area but not in McDonald?
Yeah, the way I understand, the Mouse Creek settlement was in Chiska.
At Chistui, you think?
No, Chesca, Chisca, I believe.
Okay.
It is a Yuchi set.
Yeah. Now, someone sent me a great amount of information. I believe it was Pat about the Yuchi, and that's another big story that has not been told about this area. And I agree with that too.
All right, I'll let you go.
Thank you for listening. Thanks.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
I'm going to say it again. I say it every week. I just love our callers.
We talk about things like how small the world is. I just wanted to throw in something talking about McDonald. I was calling my insurance company recently, and they roll you over to different places across the country. Mm-hmm. And I get I speak to a fellow in Tampa, Florida, and somehow along the way I mentioned Cleveland, Tennessee, which, needless to say, I'm very proud of. And he says, I grew up in Cleveland, Tennessee. He said, that's where I'm from. I said, you are? I said, whereabouts? He said, McDonald.
Well, when you said where's about, and he understood that language, you knew he's from McDonald.
And I said, is that right? He says, yeah. I said, what's your name? He says, McDowell. Mm-hmm. I said, are you Pam? She was an 8th grader whenever I was down. She was she was the tallest girl on our basketball team, and she had a sister, Diane. And anyway, he said, that's my sister. I said, what? He said, yeah. Well, anyway, Diane has a restaurant over in Etowah, the Farmhouse or something.
Oh, yeah. I didn't realize she was a local girl.
And so anyway, I just couldn't believe it. I was talking to somebody from McDonald.
We'll have to ask her next time we go in there.
Good morning, live on Old Town Cleveland.
Yeah, Ron, it's me again. I'm just curious about something. Maybe Deb or your guest can answer it. You know where Mineral Park is, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Does anybody know why they gave that name Mineral Park? All I ever noticed there, they got one store, a little post office. And, used to be a pawn shop there run by Wendell Davis. And but I've always thought it was a quaint little place, but I've never heard nobody talk about it. And I know Ron's been there at that dance club probably a lot when he
was a patrolman, yeah.
Yeah, well, I was a policeman when I went in there.
Oh, I thought you played your band.
Oh, no, I never played at Mineral Park. No.
Okay, we'll talk about that. Ron just put a picture up on the screen for those of you who are on the internet that says Mineral Park Springs, God. 6 different mineral waters, best arsenic and iron water in the South. And so it was quite the big complex there. And, of course, being close to the railroad, people would get off at the McDonald Depot and would be right there. And there were little cabins, not only at Mineral Park and Tucker Springs and Ball Springs and Wildwood Lake. They would sell off tiny pieces of property or leases, and people built their own cabins there. Just little rustic cabins, for summer use.
There's a nice little walkway up behind this picture here that walked up to the spring, had a rocked type garden walking up through there, and it was real. The area was really fancy. Now, later on, it became a dance hall. Not the resort, but they built that big red building we all know today as a dance hall, Mineral Park, and then they had the little bar there next door to it, which was. It was one of those country honky tonk places.
It was a honky tonk in the 50s.
You better be serious when you went in there about drinking or fighting, one or the other, But
I had one of my 6th graders used to clean it. Well, he was in the 6th and I had him 7 too. Used to clean it out. Just clean out after the dance was over, he'd go in there and sweep it out at night.
Well, if you remember where the dance hall was, where the dance hall still stands there, if back up on the right, if you're facing the dance hall, there was little bitty cabins all along that little ridge right through there. Yeah. And I remember Randy Fox may remember a big deputy named Jack Ellis. Oh, yeah. Jack lived in one of those apartments down there, I believe, didn't he? One of those cabins. And so that's I don't know how I know that, just remember that. But
random thought.
All my other thoughts is going to being with the Sheriff's Department, going in Mineral Park, all the way to the fight, then to the Crow's Nest to the fight, then the Starlight, and then the Lazy Boy.
Taking the bus to load everybody up.
And what's the one out on the Spring Place, all the way out to the end?
Crazy Corner?
Crazy Corners. Yeah,
I think Crazy Corner's a church now.
What Crazy Corner was it?
Crazy
Randy?
Corner. Crazy Corner is almost down to the Georgia line.
Yeah, I've been in a few fights down there, and a few fights, I used to go with Lamar Lawson, and we'd clean out the Starlight.
Well, let's talk to Bubba about high school days.
All right.
So who were some of your favorite teachers, Bubba? You were at Bradley.
Well,
yes.
I went up there as a sophomore. Randy went up there as a ninth grader. That's Edward Arnold. But anyway, I had LeBron Montgomery for biology, and Mr. Farmer was across the way. I didn't have him, but he was across the way there. I knew him because he used to pull cars a little bit, as I remember. And,
we lost him in the last couple of years, Mr. Roy Farmer.
And I had Joe Bounds for world history. And as far as I know, I think it was Miss Joe Bounds, if I'm not mistaken. I had, Mr. Chisholm, B.D. Chisholm for what was called bookkeeping, and Mrs. Simpson for typing. I had Coach Smitty for health. I had my algebra teacher was Don Jacobs. And I think I mentioned one time when we were talking about class of 66, my algebra book didn't start till about page 25. It didn't have a cover on it. There was an old, and so when I went to Middle Tennessee and they started putting Venn diagrams and subsets up there on the board, I had no idea what they were talking about. But somehow Mike Renner, Mike Kress, and myself and Bo worked through that somehow. We finally got through that college algebra. But anyway, I had Mrs. Willie Lehman. I had Charlene Foster. That was my two sophomore and junior English teacher. I had Miss Corbett senior year.
Did you have Miss Rogers for American History?
I wasn't in that smart bunch. You got to keep in mind.
You had been to
you got to
What
keep
about
in mind.
Mrs.
I was
Maupin?
holding up the rest of the class. I was a lot of support for my low grades, you know.
Miss Maupin,
I didn't have Miss Maupin. I knew her. I had Mrs. Sue Newman. I got that was the first altercation I had with not altercation, but I got sent to the office in her class, and I made a remark there to Mrs. Newman, which was not real nice. No cussing or whatever like that. But anyway, I got to go see Miss Clemmer. Miss Clemmer, this was on a Friday, and she says, you will apologize to the class Friday morning. Monday morning. So you had all weekend to stand up in front of the class and say, I apologize to the class and to Mrs. Newman for the remark I made on Friday. I sat there, I was nervous as could be to do that, but taught me a lesson. Ms. Clemmer was, by far, she was the biggest inspiration to me at that school because she ran the school. Mr. Schultz may have had the title, but she ran the school. Randy can say that too because he saw her.
Randy was very familiar with Miss Clemmer, I believe.
He saw her enough. But anyway, I had there's others. I know I'm missing some of them. I had Buren Hall for homeroom. I had Ms. Tipton for physical science, and just had they're all each were their own person for sure, but I'm trying to think who I had for American. Oh, I took summer school for American history. A bunch of us took it, and I wanted to get it out of the way because I was taking 3 business courses my senior year, so I had Ms. Newman again for that. And what you got to do during break was go over to Blair's and have a Coke and a donut.
Yeah,
it was kind of laid back.
Just in case you didn't have enough sugar in your body.
That's right.
You had. I had Mr. Spitty for Coach Smitty as homeroom teacher.
Oh, did you? Okay.
And we found that it was a very structured class.
Yeah.
He was a very nice gentleman, but he sort of liked the rules, didn't he?
Yeah.
He was sort of
You didn't talk while he's out of the room.
No,
he'd take care of it when he come by. Who talked? Now anybody that didn't get a paddling, if you saw any of you got a paddling, saw anybody that talked in here that didn't get a paddling, you write their name down. I'll tell you like that. And he'd pass the hat around, and but you pretty much knew that you better tell the truth. But he gave us a lick, and I had Mr. Foster for homeroom. My senior year, it was. I'll say this: they can talk about food. Randy's grandfather was over at Arnold, and he made those yeast rolls that just, gosh, they're good. They were good. And while they had to portion out in little trays, you went up to Bradley, you had Coca-Colas, and tea, and
was Mr. Pig the
Mr. Pig was the cook, and they just laid it on your plate. And Randy though he told me he never ate in the cafeteria at Bradley. He went over across the street. But
you could smoke over there, couldn't you?
Been smoking since third grade.
But he Mr. Pig could really cook, and meal changed every day. You had meat, you had choice of meats and whatever.
He had a goulash on like Thursday or something. Oh my gosh, it was good.
I've been trying for 34 years to find a recipe like Mr. Pig's for goulash, and I hadn't done it yet.
And then on Friday you had baked beans and shrimp, and then you had the hot dog and hamburgers. You went through that little line, got home. I was
out of that warmer wrapped in that.
Monday was green peas, mashed potatoes. I'm trying to remember some macaroni and cheese or
what
something.
What did you have for lunch yesterday, Bubba?
I don't even remember. I was in a dream yesterday. I left real early. I was kind of in a dream all day yesterday. But anyway,
it is funny how we can remember that, but can't really. Yeah.
But Bradley High School. I still tell people the story about class of '62, like when I called in and talked to Sylvia the other day when she was on, and I said, "There's not another school probably in the whole country ever accomplished that." And I said they won other championships that year too. What'd y'all decide? The baseball or something, or
what?
It was like baseball and golf and basketball and football.
The triple count. They won the big ones: the baseball, football, and basketball. Yeah.
But
I know someone brought me a full page ad congratulating the athletes. It was really interesting to see.
But we didn't miss growing up. I didn't miss too many football, too many basketball games, home games. We even from time to time would go to where the Bradley was going, might go to the state and see the state play. See them high school state for a couple of days or whatever.
Now, this was prior to Cleveland even opening, right?
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
our class 66 was the last full Bradley. 67, Cleveland High was they went out there, marched out there, as you remember.
A lot of changes in the community at that time.
Yes.
Good, but good morning, live on Old Town Cleveland.
I just wanted to call in and concur with Bubba about Randy Fox's grandfather's rose. Fantastic. And I want to give you all a trivia question.
Okay, go ahead, Doug.
I'm going to hang up and see if y'all can get the answer. You told me the number for Bob Johnson was 54. I want to know the number for Charlie Snyder.
Oh, I've seen the picture.
I'm going to say 78.
Bubba's saying 78.
Bubba's very, very close.
79, probably. Or 77.
77.
77.
Charlie Snyder, 77.
Charlie, who is your friend that knows a lot about
Doug.
Chickamauga? I'm sorry, Doug. I didn't mean to cuss you like that, Doug. Who's your friend that you told me about, the Chickamauga battlefield?
Ken Ducky. Debbie knows him. He'd be the person you want to speak to about that, Debbie. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
All right, bye-bye.
All right, Doug.
Forget there, I would like to remind everybody that we are now working on the history of dirt track racing in Southeast Tennessee and North Georgia, and we have we're needing videos, we need pictures, we need stories. We have some unbelievable stories that are getting ready to be filmed here at that. We've been down at Boyd Speedway. We actually had cameras in the cars.
When they wrecked.
That was kind of fun,
except for the guy that was in the car.
Our son was up on the flagpole.
Not on the flagpole, on the flag stand.
Flag stand, yeah. The flag stand.
There's a little difference there.
Either one, it was scaring him to death because he's afraid of heights, and he was out hanging over the cars, and the heat and
the wind and the noise was pretty intense.
With our cameras, and so.
And we're shooting for that to be finished about May of next year. The big premiere of that will be in May, and we've kind of creeped along here for a while, but we're getting ready to pick up some steam and giddy up go with it.
And Deb found out yesterday from our son-in-law that he found someone who has a ton of videos.
Yeah.
We had the Fryer Boys on the
show.
Yeah.
Well, Terry Evans, I do the radio show with, has videos of Cleveland Speedway.
Boy.
Good morning, you're live on Old Town Cleveland.
Hey, Ron.
Hey.
How did you like that Polk County Cleveland game?
Well, if it finished out just a little bit different, I liked it, but it was a good ball game.
Well, don't
Now, Ron's been on a diet for 4 months. Tell him what you ate yesterday, Ron, at the ball game.
Well, yes, I ate a hamburger and a hot dog, and then we do the TV show after the game. We had pizza, so I had more calories yesterday than I had in the whole month of August.
Was there any popcorn and M&Ms involved in that?
No, none at all, no.
The line must have been too long, Bubba.
It was a long walk, yeah.
He stayed on his diet then. He didn't go 100% off.
What'd you say, Ann?
When does Cleveland Bradley play?
Too soon for us Bradley fans.
About 5 weeks.
Okay, then we're going to have to watch it.
Yeah,
we're going to have to giddy up go.
Yeah, well, we know the Bears are going to win that anyway. So
I think that WTMB's trying to work on being able to broadcast some of the games on Channel 5.
And then Cleveland has its own little internet network, too, that they broadcast games.
Hey, Dad, you're going to have to watch Ron. He's going to gain weight.
Oh, he's done really good. He's lost almost 40 pounds.
Gosh, congratulations.
Eating all that food in ball game.
Yeah, and I tell you what, he just don't take me out for ice cream anymore, and it's not fun.
Yesterday at lunch, though, I had a Lunchable, 250-calorie real Lunchable. That was my entire lunch, so I was getting ready to miss it a little bit.
He was saving up. Thanks, Ina.
Okay, I'm going to let y'all go.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
I want to remind folks that they can go down to the Museum Center and pick up Confederate Voices and the book that I wrote about a lot of the Confederate families here in the area. And our CD and our book about Caney Creek have
DVD.
The DVD and the book about Caney Creek have done exceptionally well down there. And you can go by there and pick them up. They're also up at the Hiwassee Heritage Center in Charleston, the Polk County News, and the Ducktown Museum. We've hit all the big places. But now we are in the McClung bookstore up in Knoxville, too. So...
And Caney Creek did win an award from the East Tennessee Historical Society, being one of the excellent projects in the in East Tennessee trying to preserve history. And
we were pretty pleased with that.
Golly, I know that Susan Morgan came over from state. She lives in Statesville. Mm-hmm. She graduated in '65, Janice, and she came over for that. Her kinfolks are Germans.
Oh yes.
Germans. And, she came over for that.
That was the most amazing thing, Bubba. We had the auditorium at Walker Valley hosts 640 people, we understand. And there were probably 40 seats that, you couldn't use. They were too close to the stage or they were broken or something. But we had standing room only. There were people that stood up for the whole 47 minutes to watch the video. We could not believe it. And the guy running the booth could not believe it. But it was really fascinating. Ron just put up a picture from the Black Fox community, and this is the picture of the old Wolf Barn that's on the Easterly farm down in the Black Fox community. And they put up one of those the quilt trail quilts on it prior to the time that Mr. and Mrs. Easterly passed away. And it was so much fun the day that they put that up. She was there, Mrs. Easterly was there with the actual quilt that this was fashioned by. It's a fan. It has that fan pattern on it that everybody will recognize as being a Southern type quilt. And her mother or her grandmother, I imagine her mother, made it in the 1920s. And when they got ready to put it, she wanted a quilt put on her barn, and she took this to someone took it to I believe the Cleveland Middle School art department, and those kids painted this, and then we were there putting it up, and it was in two sections, a left-handed side and a right-handed side, and Dennis Epperson and I believe the other guy was a Calfee guy. They're both builders here in town, had volunteered to come put it up. They pulled up their big dually truck underneath the edge of the barn there, stood up on top. One of them was standing on top of the ladder up in the back of the truck, and they're putting it up, and they were just struggling, and it was humid, and they were sweating and stuff. And Mr. Easterly, that was then at least 94 years old, said, "The right-hand side's a quarter of an inch too low." Much to my delight. And they looked at it, and they said, well, we do think it's a little bit lower, and they moved it a little bit. And then after that, he says, "I'm sure glad all of you are here this morning." Melissa Woody was there also. "I'm sure glad you're all here this morning because the farrier's coming to put new horseshoes on my horse, and I can't catch the horses by myself. I'll need your help." Of course, all of us fell for it. We said, "Oh, sure, we can stay and help." And so he took us over, and as he's driving, he stops at his water wheel. There's a water wheel there, a metal water wheel from the 1930s that provided electricity for the Easterly farm years before electricity came to the rest of the community, and it pumped water to their plants. They started Varnell Nursery. It was Easterly Nursery, and it became Varnell Nursery when one of the Varnells and one of the Easterlys married. But anyway, the big metal wheel's still there. Well, he happened to have to stop there, so he told us about the blacksmith shop that used to be there, and he told us about the electricity and how they generated their own electricity and stuff. And then he told us about their house when it was built in 1917. You know, wonderful history lesson. Of course, all of us needed to get back to work, but that didn't seem to bother Mr. Easterly. He took us on up to the barn, and he said, go in there and shovel up a scoop of feed. Well, as soon as those horses heard that feed, they came running to the barn and ran inside the stable. And all we had to do is put the feed in there and close the door. In other words, he didn't need he didn't need help. He wanted an audience, and we were glad to provide that
now,
for
the
him.
barn itself, no nails. I mean, it's all wood tagged.
Mr. Easterly told me that barn was older than he was. He originally moved there in 1925 when he was 9 years old. His mom had died, and his uncle and aunt let him live there as a young boy. And then he went back later in the 1960s and bought the farm, which I think is a great story. But he remembers that barn being there as an older barn when he was a young boy in 1925. And if I remember correctly, at least in the original construction, that barn's put together with pegs. But it's not a log barn. It's a sawmilled lumber. But there were 11 sawmills in Bradley County when the Indians left in 1838. So we've had sawed lumber here for a long time.
Is it on the easterly side of the road or the wolf?
Easterly side of the road. Okay. The Wolf House was on the other side, but it's gone.
Next to the cemetery.
Yeah.
Good morning. You're live on Old Town Cleveland.
Earlier, you were talking about the show ring behind the old Black Fox School. That was the Black Fox Saddle Club, and they had horse shows back there.
Okay. I thought it was the Ruatan Club, but I don't always tell the truth, Doug.
Yeah, I'm quite sure it's the Black Fox Saddle Club. You could pull your car up and watch the horse competition, and just sit in your car, and that's what I did. I did a lot of that. All right, bye-bye.
We used to go down to Jack Easterly's, as you ford the creek going to that back pasture there. Mother and Dad and Janice and I would, Janice and I'd swim. They'd wash the car, right there in the middle of it. And
that's the crossing that Mr. Easterly tried to drown me. He had me on a wagon. He was taking me to show me something, and the water was up over the wheels on the wagon.
Good morning,
I thought I was going to die.
Ron?
Yes.
This is Joe. Who is that lady that called in a while ago about the beans?
She is up at
Bernice.
It's Bernice, and they sit up at the farmers market on Peerless Road on Tuesdays and Saturday mornings.
What is her name?
I have no idea. All we know is Bernice, and it's Miss Elizabeth's sister. That's all I know.
Well, okay. I just wanted to know. But anyway, hey, Ron, don't forget to play my song.
Which song is that, honey?
John Anderson, that Swingin'.
Just a swingin'.
I'll find it.
Okay, we'll do that.
All right, we'll do it.
Okay, thank you so much.
Bye-bye. Thanks for listening. I just want to remind everybody that they're having that big book signing down at the Red Ribbon. And the Red Ribbon's worked with us a couple times on book signings, and they work really well down there. It's a little crowded, but we can make it through. And it's on the Carrie Smith Lawson murder. It's a historical fiction book by Joy Cagle.
Good morning, live on Old Town Cleveland.
This is Bernice.
Hey, Bernice.
The mystery woman. Miss Bernice, what's your last name?
Wade.
Wade?
Yeah.
Okay.
She can buy some beans from him Tuesday.
Okay, he don't even have any today.
Well, he's got 2 bushels. He says he's going to have to leave down to Canada. Nobody didn't buy them, so she might could get in touch with him down there.
Okay. And that's on Peerless Road, but Tuesday's her best bet.
Yeah.
All righty. Thank you, Miss Bernice.
Okay, darling.
Bye-bye.
Well, the cemetery back there behind the Wolf House is where, I'm sorry.
A lot of the Lacey's are buried back there.
Yeah,
it's basically a community cemetery, and off the top of my head, I want to say that probably there's people buried there from the 1850s. And if I was a guessing woman, I'd say a few of those graves over on the backside that aren't marked, maybe Indian graves, I don't know. And but I would say that it's been used as a community graveyard for
Neil Henry,
centuries.
He had Neil, if I'm not mistaken, Neil had kin folks that were buried there too.
There was a triplet mill that was there on Candies Creek, and then up where the intersection is now of Black Fox Road and Old Chattanooga Pike, the Beans had a mill right there at that area on that little bitty spring. They had
across the road.
Yes.
Across the road. I remember it. I remember that.
Oh, you remember seeing that?
Yeah, they had it was still in existence. If that's what I'm thinking. It had a big water wheel.
Yeah.
It was right there.
They had a race that ran to it. They converted the water out of that little stream there, and it built up somehow and ran down the race and turned the wheel for that one. Yeah. But Mr. Easterly in 1925 remembered his dad having a small amount of work there at the bean mill. And then there was a mill right there where you turn in their driveway. I don't know if that was the triplet mill or not. Well, it's kind of hard to decide because actually the road had run a little bit north of where it runs now, that Black Fox Road did. Yeah. When the Wolf House was there, the road ran a little bit differently. Yeah. And at some point in time, they come through and take all the crooks out of the road, and it changes where things used to be.
My grandmother, who lived in town, as I mentioned earlier, next to where Randy had lived, she would go down when they had the homecoming at Black Fox Methodist, and Summerfield would come up from I guess where Lookout Mountain, wherever it was he lived, and chauffeured up there, and he'd get out, and it was just like old times. She just really enjoyed that. And see, her sister was my grandmother was a Payne. Her sister was Mrs. Chubb Cunningham, Aunt Ethel, and she would come over too, and they just had the greatest time. They really did enjoy it.
Bubba, you and your sister Janice need to start writing some of this down.
Good morning. You're live on Old Town Cleveland.
Yes, good morning. I meant to call in earlier and mention to y'all when the fella called in about the soda.
Yeah.
I can't remember the meadow, but if you're going up to Tellico and you go on up like you're going to the Cherahela.
Yes.
Do you remember, I don't know if you went there when they were still building on the road. Did you go when they were?
No.
There used to be a bus parked up there in the doghouse at where it ended, but they were still working on it. And it was on the right-hand side, but I cannot remember the name of it. But DeSoto's name is carved on some rocks up there.
Huh.
Oh, gosh.
So I just thought I thought when Ken gets home, I'll try to get the name, and I'll send you the name of the
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
DeSoto's one of those curiosities to me because they didn't have CNN then. And you just have to kind of... and the folks passing through, the people with him, were writing in a foreign language, and sometimes when the interpretations get a little fuzzy, but they were basically describing the terrain that they were seeing and the people that they were seeing, which is terribly interesting. And the guy I mentioned earlier, that Feather Stonehouse or whatever his name is, the thing I love about his writing is he was a geologist, and he probably could have really done the really technical things. Yeah. But instead, or in addition to that, he talks about the people he sees. And he cracked me up when he saw the women down at the mineral springs. He said the Cherokee women were white and good looking. Small and good looking. Then when he got down to Red Clay, he was there when they were doing the council meetings in 1835, and all the Cherokees were coming in from all over, and he starts describing the people he sees there, and he wasn't so kind to the women then. He said that they were no longer maidens, and that they had lived a life of hard work, and it was, showing. Yeah. And I thought, well, that wasn't very nice. He had probably never heard, if you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all. But he had written then, that the women looked like that they were tired, and that the children were playing and having a good time. Yeah. But all the adults were walking about looking really concerned. And I think that would be true.
It could be like that Mickey Gilley song, though.
The girls all get better at closing. Looking at closing time.
The girls all get better looking when you see one. Finally,
yeah.
You've walked through the woods for miles and miles, and then you see one. They all look pretty good,
But that fellow's book is online, and you can read it online. Of course, I did find an original copy of the 2 volumes the other day for sale. And if I had an extra $900 laying around, it'd probably be in my library. But I figure
I'm surprised I don't own books. Bubba, I got 2 questions for you. Cries, what other Cries are you related to here in Cleveland area?
Well, my dad.
I grew up with Cries out on Springplay. I mean, out in Oak Grove community.
Okay.
Marvin Cry. I mean,
he would be my dad's first cousin.
Okay. I grew up
with the Cries that lived at Caney Creek.
That's a good question. I don't. I know that my grandfather was Roe Cry, Monroe Elijah Cry, if I'm not mistaken, and he married Venie Hedrick. So that's where I'm kin to Hedricks too, and so.
The Hedricks that came out of Blount County, you think?
That I don't know about that. They had 5 children. So my dad's brother, I mentioned Leonard. Mm-hmm. My dad and brother Paul lived where the quarry is out. Is that Bates Pike?
Yeah,
that way.
Yeah, sure is.
That used to be his farm. Part of it was his farm, and then he relocated on Mouse Creek Valley Road out there. And whenever they built the interstate, they got the back side of that. Mm-hmm. He owned Norman Chapel up there, and we owned up the ridge, so it was like parceled, and you had where he lived, then you had the interstate, then you had the other side, and then you had to run on up the ridge. And anyway, Dad, and then Eva Kate, and then Madge was Madge Green. She married Charlie Green.
Yeah, you mentioned the Lacey's. Now, right. Wasn't there some ball player?
Yeah, I had great uncles. George was a scout,
right?
And then my grandfather played with the Indians just a brief period of time.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not talking about the Cherokees. We're talking about the Indians baseball team.
The Cleveland Indians. Yeah. Guy. His name was Osceola Guy. Lacey.
I wonder where that name came from, because it's all over that cemetery down in Triplet.
The funny thing is, I go out of Charlotte and I go to Lancaster. There's an Osceola Methodist Church, or something.
Apparently that word means
Semicolon, doesn't it?
It doesn't sound Cherokee.
Osceola, so it's spelled.
Mm-hmm. And so they were. One of them was a professional scout. One of them was a professional player.
Right. And then there was Dewey, Zote, Ramos, one they called Junior, and there were 6 of them. But when I went to Fort Eustis, Virginia in '71, Zote lived on the Chesapeake Bay in a little town where no town whatsoever, just a community called Hayes, Virginia. And Mother had told me, said to call him when I was up there. Well, George had retired from being a scout. He lived in Richmond. And so I called up Zote and went over and visited with him one day. And then the second time I went over, George came down from Richmond, and we just sat around and talked. I mean, no telling how much the property would be worth to this day, but he had just a little white frame house, and he prided himself that he'd put timbers out there on the bank to keep it from washing into the the water. Always was right there, and then that's where he died, where Zote passed away there, and I guess George did in Richmond. But that would be my mother's uncles. There were 6 boys, and a girl's name was Hortense. Mm-hmm. She lived.
Somebody
in Chattanooga.
wants to know if you know Greenville Cry.
There was my grandfather had Green. There was a Green Cry.
That's probably him. Yeah,
because there was I don't know each and every one of their names, but seemed like there were 8 boys, and there was 1 girl on that side, and that was
that's why we have so many Cries in Bradley County.
And she married a Guerin, so that's how I'm kin to the Guerins. So the Stones on the Lacey side, and the Paynes.
Mr. Easterly would tell me a great story about the Lacey fellow that played professional ball, and he would tell the story that he was on the field when Babe Ruth got to the field. I mean, was actually there batting and stuff, and they threw the ball, and Babe Ruth hit the ball, and it popped up, and he was on second base before it came down, and somebody caught it. Now, that's the story that was told. And Mr. Easterly would just grin, and he says, I think it's mostly a true story.
Well, hey, folks, that's been
Golly,
Old Town
Bubba.
Cleveland this week. And
you survived, buddy.
I tell you.
We appreciate Bubba coming in today because we like to talk about our communities here in Bradley County. And coming up in October, we're going to be talking about my old stomping grounds. We'll have Kent Inslee come on, and we're going to be talking about Sugar Creek and Union Grove and Buck's Pocket and all those famous places in between. We'll be talking about the folks down in that end of the country, down in the Humbards.
Next week, Joan's coming in. We're going to talk about snake handling churches.
I'll have to listen to
That's
Joan
going to be
talk.
fun. And then the first weekend in September, we're 99% sure that Steve Bivens is coming in with his mama.
Yeah.
And Mama knows. Mama's going to tell all.
One
and
of my
then
mother's
the
best
end.
friends. Yeah.
Oh, that'll be fun for you. And then in the end of September, we have P-Dab and his aunt coming in talking about things that happen out in the White Oak Mountain area. And I think that'll be a lot of fun, too. And if you have an aunt or uncle that you think would come on and be with us and talk about their childhood here in Bradley County, we'd love to have them on, too.
Because some of our great story, you know, I think we had Mr. Green in here, which was Dobov's stepfather, and he said he played football at Bradley, and I said, who was your coach? And he said, my mind just went blank.
Jimmy Lovell.
Jimmy Lovell. And I went, I've never talked
Ron
to
just froze. Ron couldn't say anything.
Someone who actually played for
and
Jimmy
he sat
Lovell
there
was
and
pretty
told
amazing.
us
You know?
about his personality and all that. As a matter of fact, I started erasing things off of my phone last night, pictures and video wise, and there was Mr. Green telling some of his stories on my phone, and I thought I need to really save this. And
well, folks, we always tell everybody every week that you've got to get those pictures from out from under the bed and out of the closet and out of the drawer, out of the shoebox. Get your aunt, your uncle, your grandparents to put names of what the buildings, the cars were, who's in the pictures. I find old pictures all the time, and I post them, and I have no idea who they are. Yeah. I get a little hint that they're from Bradley High School or they were at Cleveland High. I post a picture of a Cleveland High marching at Epcot, and no one can tell me when that was yet. People said it was 60s. Well, Epcot wasn't built in the 60s. Neither was Cleveland High School. You know, so, you need to write those names down on there. We'll always remember what happened at Pearl Harbor. We may not remember what happened down your street, in your family, where your dad worked, or the local history, until you start telling the story, and they are good stories, every one of them.
Yeah, they'll always be proud of where you grew up at, because Cleveland, Tennessee is a whole lot bigger than you would ever think out there in the field.
Oh,
I must say, I'm proud of where I grew up.
Well, we're proud of you too,
well,
Bubba.
thank you, Buffa. Call in often.
All right.
Hey, we'll see you next
week.
Thank you for having me.
See you next week.
You are listening to WOOP-LP, Cleveland, Tennessee. WOOP FM is a broadcasting service of the Traditional Music Resource Center, and we play America's original music.
Check into cash.
Hi, this is Lisa with Check Into Cash. We give you more money for your title.